Welcome to the Fantasmagorium show. Robert Meyer Burnett is on the show today. If the spice don't flow, you can kiss my Arrakis. Dune, Dune, Dune.
Ooh.
The San Diego Comic-Con comes home again. And the cinematic Star-Spangled Man with a plan turns 10. Let's go.
And we are live.
Hey, Steve, what's going on, man?
Hey, we got a very special guest in the house. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, how are you both today? It's a glorious day today, is it not?
It is a glorious day.
It's a good day to die.
It is. Well, I know, because I would hate to die before I see something that we've all caught another glimpse of that I don't want to miss.
So we're very honored as a small budding show trying to get our feet wet in this industry or in this space to have you, Rob. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Oh, well, come on, you're supporters of me too. I can return the favor, can I not?
That's awesome. We love it.
Thanks, man.
So without further ado, we're gonna change up the show today just a little bit in the beginning because Rob's here and because this awesome trailer dropped. So let's watch the trailer and we'll get our thoughts and reactions on the other side. All I can say is wow. When I saw this morning, I was like, I was so blown away by it. I think my favorite trailer this year so far was the Godzilla versus Kong trailer, but this is something just next level for me. And maybe it's just because this is my most anticipated movie of the year that I have a little bit of rose-colored glasses for it. But wow, it looks great. And Rob, when I first heard about this project, I was super excited for Denis, but I was kind of bummed out that it wasn't going to be Roger Deakins in the DP slot, right? But from what I've seen in these last two trailers, man, the cinematography from Greg Fraser looks epic and amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, one of the things that is very apparent to me from this trailer, even the first trailer, even the screenplay, because I read the screenplay, although there's some interesting things they've changed in the screenplay based on what they screened last night, which is interesting. But the ambition here, I feel that there is a fundamental shift that has happened with the entertainment business in that, unfortunately, because movies are so much more expensive nowadays than they were, say, even 20 years ago, that the kinds of things that are getting made, they have to be pre-marketed, they have to be known IPs, you have to be risk averse, because if you're spending, I guess the reported budget on this is 165 million, but when you're spending 165 million on these movies, you're looking at, you have to get a return of between, anywhere from 750 million to $1 billion to make it even worthwhile. Now, that's a really daunting task for a studio, for anyone really. So they have to be as risk averse as they can. And yet something like this comes along. The only reason that this could even get made is because it previously has been made. 84, you had the Lynch version, then you had the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries version. So people are like, well, it's been made before. It's not only been made once, it's been made twice. So it's a known commodity. So, and that's great. So in a way, it's self-perpetuating in the sense that, it's an IP, so we can revisit it. But in the case of this, you have a filmmaker in Denis Villeneuve who wanted to make this basically his whole life. Yeah. You've combined a filmmaker that's shown, whether it was Prisoners or whether it's Sicario or whether it's Arrival or Blade Runner 2049, he's a world-class filmmaker. And there are very few filmmakers that are currently working that have the ability to do what he's done.
It almost seems like his career up until now has prepared him to shoot this movie. Right?
Absolutely. But see, I think the downside is that the idea of how this movie got greenlit because it's a previously existing IP, that's all well and good. But does the story that's being told, is it going to be engaging for our audiences today?
Right.
And I was talking about this last night. I think that in the advent of the smartphone era, people are now able to curate the information they're getting. So they only get information that's interesting to them. So they're not like when I was growing up, one of the great things about life was that within science fiction, fantasy, and horror as a genre, there was all these different things that were happening, so much diversity in terms of storytelling, that the things that you were exposed to, the concepts, were fascinating. And they would instill in you, at least they did in me, a thirst for knowledge. Like, I need to understand this.
Sure.
And like when I first read Dune, Dune has a lot of everything from Islam to Buddhism to ecology. There's so much in it from an imagination and just a knowledge standpoint that if you read the book, you have to be somebody that's really open-minded. I mean, the idea, like to me, when someone would ask me, Rob, what was your YA literature? What were you reading when you were 11, 12 years old? Well, I was reading Dune, and I was reading Stephen King's The Stand, and I was reading Stranger in a Strange Land, and I was reading Earth Abides, and I was reading science fiction that was written for adults.
Yeah, when I was in 8th grade, I read War of the Worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
all the H.G. Wells stuff when I was in 8th grade.
And it's we have been infantilized as a culture, and I think that is never more so apparent than in our popular entertainment. And as much as I love like Infinity War and Endgame, and I like a lot of the superhero movies we're getting, I didn't grow up with those movies. You know, I grew up with dystopian science fiction of the 70s, whether it's Soylent Green or Rollerball or No Blade of Grass or even the latter Planet of the Apes films or whatever. These are films that had heady Boy and His Dog, that had heady concepts.
I love A Boy and His Dog.
Yeah, and these are frequently it's based on a Harlan Ellison story.
Yeah.
And I feel like our popular entertainment, I mean, as much as I love Star Wars is an amalgamation, well, of Dune and Princess of Mars and in a way, and I love Star Wars, but they're dumbed down versions of classic science fiction. And that's not to take anything away from Star Wars, but after all, George Lucas wanted to make Flash Gordon and couldn't get the rights.
Right.
You know, so when you see something like this, and we're seeing this a lot, we're getting the Foundation series. Yeah. You know, I love, again, the Foundation trilogy to me was foundational science fiction that I had read.
It also looks amazing, by the way.
It looks amazing. And I'm hoping that people go see this movie, because for as grand as this looks, and everybody I've talked to that went to the IMAX presentation last night says that the scope of this film is so huge. I mean, everything from the brutalist architecture and the design to the fact that it's a really thoughtful movie. It's about politics. Where people are like, I don't want politics. This is all about politics. Yeah. It's all about politics and religion and prophecy and capitalism, and it's about all kinds of heady things that people seem to be shying away from in their escapist entertainment. And I've never understood that, because to me, I learned about these concepts in my escapist entertainment.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want my politics in science fiction. I'm like, science fiction is like one of the most political genres you can come across.
Absolutely.
If you're not reading a political thriller, and Dune is exactly that. I mean, Dune is all about that. Yeah. And so what I'm hoping is seeing something that's made on such a grand scale that it has the kind of financial success. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be a 4-quadrant movie. People are going to go to this movie, especially young people who are not trained in this kind of storytelling, might find it a little, call it opaque to get into, maybe a little bit. And obviously the care and the time and the effort that was put into this film, just based on this and what people have told me, if you watch like Quinn's Ideas, I watched his video on this. He went and saw it. He's a big Dune fan, and his YouTube channel, he's always doing deep dives into this stuff. And seeing someone as him as excited about this as he was, and I've been excited about this since I did a whole Robservations that got me a copyright strike from Warner Brothers when I talked about the script.
That's right.
You know, and how much I like this script. I just love seeing great science fiction brought to life on such a grand scale, where the people making this, it's like their life's work. You know, they know that this is going to be one of the most important genre movies ever made, even though it's been made a couple of times, but never satisfactorily. And it looks to me that because they only made the first half of the book, David Lynch
Right.
did the whole book. This is only the first half of Dune.
Right.
And a lot of people don't even understand. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, people are like, well, this story is just another white savior trope. And I'm like, well, clearly you haven't read Dune or Dune Messiah because
you don't know where this ends up.
It ain't that at all. And, again, I feel that, we have this weird knee-jerk society that we live in now where people are afraid of ideas, and much less they're afraid of delving into ideas if they find those ideas difficult, distasteful, or they might not want to engage with them. And I don't understand. That's what intellectual examination and discourse is all about. That's how our society grows. And we have been stunted. We are people that no longer want to engage in discourse unless it's with people that agree with us.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And one of the things about science fiction is it's always been a challenging genre for the reader. And I grew up in a world where these were the books that I was reading as a kid. And it was exciting. And heady
sci-fi has always challenged your worldview if it's done right. In fact, the last great heady sci-fi thing I've seen was The Expanse. And The Expanse is really well done.
Yeah, and it's also based on literary sci-fi.
That's right.
And it deals with those kinds, and people like it. Look, Game of Thrones, before it was, dumbed down, Game of Thrones was a great example, a great look at fantasy worlds, and Game of Thrones was all about politics, and it was all about that kind of thing, and it was really, really, really a beautifully done show, especially the first 4 seasons. And I
think so many people today are afraid to bring that people are bringing today's politics into things, and I can understand that kind of point of view. But look, if the knowledge comes from the debate, and if we can have nuanced civil debates with each other, that's how we're going to learn. And that's how we learned from these sci-fi books when we were growing up. They challenged our perceptions. They challenged our worldviews. And this looks great. One of the great things I liked about what I saw in the I think my favorite part of the trailer was Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron Harkonnen.
Oh,
when he's rising up, I'm like, I lost my shit right there. I was like, oh my God, this is dope. This is exactly how I envisioned it when I was reading the book.
Well, it's really funny to me. I look at this trailer, and while it's a little dour because the material's that way,
sure,
I look at this and what this to me, and this is going to seem strange to say, I wanted to see Return of the Jedi like the trailer for Dune that we just saw. Right. Where after Empire, when I saw Empire, I was expecting the culmination of this story to be this kind of epic grandeur. Mm-hmm. And we end up basically getting, when I saw the Emperor come down the ramp of the shuttle Tidarium or whatever, it wasn't the Tidarium, but that shuttle, right. I'm like, this is the witch from Snow White. They've made the Emperor look like the witch from Snow White, when really I thought in the Star Wars universe, it should have been, more like Baron Harkonnen, who we see the look of all this stuff. And because I've always, taken this kind of thing very seriously. And when you look at Star Wars, it was great escapist entertainment. Empire sort of plussed that by making the universe a lot more nuanced. And then I thought by the time you got to Return of the Jedi, we were going to see Lawrence of Arabia,
right?
Or in Dune. I thought we were going to get that, and we didn't. We got an infantilized version of what Empire was, because George Lucas didn't like Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there when it was being made. Irvin Kershner kind of went off and did his own thing. And if you read Rinsler's book about the making of Empire, it's a really fascinating tale of how Irvin Kershner's creative vision was able to bubble forth because he was kind of left on his own. And it was really interesting that that's what we got. And I would have thought that at this point, with technology the way it is, we would be getting more of Game of Thrones and more of Dune and more of these things and more of like The Expanse, because people, when they finally sit down and pay attention, they like these stories.
They do.
Because they're rewarding. And even if you're not necessarily a sci-fi fan, you can remove all of the sci-fi elements. This is a biblical story.
Right. Yeah.
It's a savior story. It even though it's not really a biblical story, and the savior idea goes horribly awry, but that's what makes it interesting. But everybody can recognize that because all of the Western canon is based on scripture. It all comes out of, and whether you believe it or not, the Bible and the stories of the Bible are hugely influential.
Well, there's Greek and Norse mythology and Roman mythology as well that informs it as well. And I'm looking forward to the grandeur that is coming from this that will excite ideas. And I've never read the book. I apologize. I never learned to read. But I think that this movie looks fantastic, and I want that story. And I really, really agree with you in terms, I hope that the youth of today are going to be able to sit still and watch it and have the story wash over them, as opposed to having like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like it jives with my mindset. I want that's what science fiction does for me, is that it excites the ideas that I've never explored before. And it makes me go and look, and not just into the production of movies or the original source material, but the things that influence that, as you were saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I'm hoping. I mean, I think that the appeal of this story, the way it seems to be told here, it is, I think, irresistible to watch. And the fact that, from what I understand, they rejiggered the beginning of the movie. In the original script, Mother Mohayim, who is the Bene Gesserit, basically the leader of the Bene Gesserit, she sort of sets the tone.
Is that the handbox lady?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she set the tone of the movie. She kind of gave us an overview. Well, they've changed it, and that over the voiceover you hear of Chani of Zendaya, that's how the movie opens now. And she sort of, which is, I think, a great way to open the film, because it puts the Fremen front and center, and the struggle with the Fremen is really where this all goes.
It's kind of the soul of the movie. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so when
story, at least it's part of the story.
Yeah, and rather than just set up the universe, what they've really done, because for those of you who know Dune, and you don't really see, there's no guild navigator scene with the Padishah Emperor where they explain what's going on, like in the movie. They don't have that. In fact, the Emperor doesn't show up in this movie. And I think guild navigators are only in the background, but you don't understand the machinations of the larger. This story is really about the Atreides and the Harkonnens and their feud. Right. And the rest of the universe it's there. There's a presence, but it's not front and center, because you don't need to know it. This is the story about the Hatfields and the McCoys, basically. Yep. And they really lean into that. And of course, by focusing on the Fremen at the beginning and Chani at the beginning, you really understand more about. And look, with today's audiences, starting out with Zendaya, right. I mean, they're going after, you need the youth of the world to go embrace this film. And I think they will, because I'm hoping, because this movie obviously is about a quest for knowledge and understanding.
That reveal, Rob, in the Chani reveal, the way it's shot, and they kind of hold on her, and then her reveal, that it reminds me of older time filmmaking when people took their time and you set up a shot on a single actor, and I don't know, it looked really awesome. It looks like they're employing or deploying a lot of different technique in this movie, just from what I could see in this little trailer spot.
Yeah, no, and of course the special effects are peak verisimilitude. I mean, they've really gone for. I think one of the things I also don't like about a lot of fantasy filmmaking, science fiction fantasy filmmaking today, is so often it feels like the visual effects are removed from the rest of the movie. Like, okay, let's cut to the huge effect shot now. Right. And seeing how they're integrating, whether it's the spice harvesters or how everything looks like it's very Denis Villeneuve did that in Arrival really, really well. I mean, he made the alien crafts. He was relying on natural landscapes where he was including the giant alien spacecraft in our natural landscapes. It looked very realistic. And so they were going, which I really appreciated. And I think that there was a look to that, in me always railing about verisimilitude. Yeah. No one does that with effects like he does. And now this is the third example after Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. He does a really great example, or uses where you're like, oh, this is not look CG. You understand that they've used CG to do it, but the look they're going for is completely naturalistic, and you believe it utterly. Like, even one of the things I really wanted to see was the ornithopters, because they couldn't do the ornithopters in the Lynch
version, right?
Scotty, the ornithopters are they flap They're the Atreides move around,
like a dragonfly.
And so it's like a dragonfly. Yes. Well, they couldn't do that in 84, so they made these kind of weird scarab-looking ships that they traveled around in. But the ornithopters were a big deal in the books. And like if you go back and you look at Chris Foss's 70s sci-fi production art, the ornithopters were always very cool. And to see the ornithopters finally brought, because there's a big sequence they showed last night where they're in an ornithopter and they watch a worm attack on the
Nice.
spice harvester. And so you get to see all that. So it's really cool. So.
Well, and that is one of the things that I'm like, I haven't seen this trailer yet. I've seen the original Dune, obviously, like the David Lynch version. Yeah. I never watched the miniseries, but this, I am more excited for the things that this trailer didn't show me than the things that it showed me. Like, I am on board for this. And you mentioned that it looked a little like it's dour material. It may be, but I was surprised by the Jason Momoa interaction with Paul. I don't know the actor's name, and I don't know the character's name in that respectively.
Yeah, it's cool. Timothy Chalamet and Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Yes, and the characters?
That's Duncan Idaho and Paul Atreides.
So the Duncan Idaho and Paul Atreides interaction there, I was not surprised. I was not expecting a joke in the middle of this trailer because it all seemed very blah. But then it was like, no, it's cool, buddy. Yeah. And there was actual emotion in the trailer, the spectacle of it, and I'm looking forward to the what this movie has not yet shown me. I think this is absolutely my most anticipated movie of 2021. Because my most anticipated movie of 2019 hasn't been released yet. So this is a reason to get me into a theater. This is a reason to get me seeing this. I want this big and loud in my body.
Well, that's what everybody was saying. I was talking to Bill Hunt from the Digital Bits before I came on with you guys, and he went to the press event and he went and saw the footage, and he was just said it's just overwhelming. He's like, the scope and scale of it is just enormous. And you know what's interesting to me is that you need filmmakers. See, now filmmaking is so fractured. You've got the directors who work on these tentpole properties. You've got previs departments that are designing all of this material sort of outside, not necessarily with the director. A director will walk in and give notes, but you've got all these guys in a previs house, whether it's the third floor or other places. And it's not that they're not good at what they do, but frequently they're designing effect shots without the director and the DP necessarily giving input. I mean, they look at stuff and they give input, but this movie from the very beginning has a director's imprint on it. Like, okay, this is truly, and I feel like we don't have a lot of truly visionary filmmakers left. That, you know, and they're thinking when you like effect sequences, like the Marvel movies are fine, but the directors are not as involved with designing, say, the action sequences, because a lot of times they're designing those sequences before a director comes on board, you know, out of necessity, because that's something that they don't want to leave to chance. And I get that.
More of an assembly line approach, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing necessarily, it's just a different approach. But on a movie like Dune, a directorial vision is of paramount importance to make it all work. Well, and it's clear that you have that in every minute of this movie.
Denise is said, I think he was asked, why do you want to do Dune? He said, I don't want anybody else to fuck it up.
Right.
I mean, right there, that told me everything I need to know about his passion for making this film.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, sometimes it doesn't always go well when you have a filmmaker that wants to do something, but it sort of exceeds their grasp. And here, clearly, it does not.
So this is part one of a scheduled 2-part movie, correct? So are we good? So I guess my question is, if this does not do well, 2049, I thought was a masterpiece, but it did not do well at the box office.
Why they thought it would is beyond me. Right. Blade Runner was never a hit. And aside from being, Blade Runner is a cult movie.
And they horribly marketed the movie.
I remember seeing that movie in the theater, and when Harrison Ford showed up, someone audibly in the audience said, "Finally!" And I was like, have you not been watching so far? Did you come here thinking this was going to be a Harrison Ford action movie? Okay.
Yeah, well, they do. And it wasn't, I mean, the idea that they spent, what, like $170 million. Blade Runner 2049 is a beautifully made film. I've talked to people that have really great reasons for not liking it that much, but I loved Blade Runner 2049. I thought it's one of the best sequels ever made, and certainly it's so handsomely mounted. It has one of the best sound mixes. One of the things I'm most excited about is the sound mix. Everyone's saying that Hans Zimmer's score is, and it's just out of the control in this. And I love the score that they both did together for Blade Runner 2049. And I can't wait to see this in an IMAX. I'm going to go to the Chinese and see this in IMAX, and awesome. I can't wait.
Do you think this movie has to make money in order to get the second one made, or think this wasn't predetermined before?
No, I mean, I think that unfortunately, if I was at the studio and greenlit this, they want to do 3 movies. They want to do Dune Prophet, and Dune Messiah, from what I understand. And I guess at the beginning of this movie, it says Dune Part 1.
Oh, really? Wow.
So
awesome.
yeah. But obviously
they also called Remo Williams The Adventure Begins. So
yeah, I know, and that's the thing. If this
and
movie
I'm still waiting for that one.
If this doesn't do well, they're not going to make a second one. But I would have, because they're there. I would have at least made break this into 2 films. I mean, they want to make it into 3 because they want to do Dune and Dune Messiah Dune Prophet, and Dune Messiah. Right. I would have done that. That's the Paul Atreides story.
Yeah.
And then you bring him to an end, and what happens, and then
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't try to film the movies back to back, like film it all at once.
Well, I think it was too much. They're risk averse already, and that would have been over a $300 million proposition on something that even the studio is going to be like, well, how do we know this is going to work? And I'm like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah. Why not go in and because it looks to me that if it's on the scope of what we've seen, it could very well be the it is kind of the Lord of the Rings of science fiction,
right?
Especially the rise and fall of Paul Atreides, and he falls fucking hard and fast.
Yeah, well, here's a question for you in reference to Denis Villeneuve. He made the sequel to Blade Runner, and Blade Runner wasn't a hit. It was kind of a cult hit. Do you think that there's any kind of correlation between the David Lynch Dune, which also was not a hit?
Yeah, I don't think the thing about David Lynch's Dune is I like it, but there's a lot about it that is goofy. Yeah. The visual effects are not that good. Mm-hmm. It's a very static film. It's people literally, they stop and stand and deliver monologues, and they don't, it's fine. Whereas, Blade Runner is like a poem. Mm-hmm. Blade Runner is so visually overwhelming, and just to watch it, especially on a decent screen, it's a very different kind of experience. Dune is all over the place. Mm-hmm. To watch Blade Runner is to feel and experience a singular vision. Dune is a very distancing kind of a movie. Now, the thing about Dune, though, as like when I was growing up, I was talking about this last night. You had to read Dune. Like, if you couldn't be a science fiction fan and not read Dune. And one of the things that I think has happened is that
you just told me I'm not a real science fiction fan, man. I set off the hop. I haven't read it yet. Stop yelling at me.
Well, no. I mean, but like when I was a kid, right? And
that's how it worked. Yeah.
I was getting books from the Science Fiction Book Club every month, and you'd read about them, and it was like, okay, there was a certain canon of books that were revered by fandom, and for me, science fiction novels were just as important, if not more important, than the movies, because all the ideas for science fiction movies sprang out of the literature. Mm-hmm. So in order to really get what you were watching cinematically, you had to be well versed in science fiction novels. And there was like 25 books that were essential reading. And I would include things like Lord of the Rings in that as well, science fiction, fantasy. And these are things that you had to read. You couldn't be a fan. Now nobody gives a shit. Now it's like, I don't need to read books, and because there's been so many I mean, we're talking 40 years of science fiction films. So there's so many more pieces of media that people can look at and examine and enjoy. And so the idea that people go back and read, I mean, when I was a kid, look how far away. I think Dune was published in 1965. I wasn't that far away from Dune's publication when it came out, you know, and nowadays you're looking 1965. That's 56 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's not new, you know, maybe it's 1964. I don't remember, but these are,
you were right. You were right.
This is 1965.
So Scotty, no excuse. You actually have the book in your hand.
I know. I'm not making excuses, man.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to read. But I think
it's a thick one. But
yeah, I think that's one of the problems now is that, you know, we have sort of, our culture has lost. We don't have general education anymore for general education's sake. It's like, well, this is what you need to pass these tests and move through our educational system. Yeah. You know, when I was growing up in elementary school in the 70s and high school in the early 80s, you wanted to learn as much as you could because every piece of information related to some other piece of it, you never knew when you could use some bit of arcane general education knowledge. And now it's like, sure. Nope, I want it like everything, like the information you're getting from your smartphones or social media, which is all tailored to what you like.
Right.
You know, no longer are you discovering things that might inspire you. Like, wow, I didn't think I would like this, but look what I've discovered. I mean, that's kind of what YouTube is. You know, I jump around on YouTube and read all these or watch all these different videos of things that I don't know anything about. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Click.
Sure.
But how many people are intellectually curious these days? I mean, if anything, that intellectual inquiry has been shut down. And to read science fiction is to be an intellect, is to grapple with ideas that are far beyond yourself. And I feel now our culture is all about what we want, you know, and it's no longer like, well, what does our culture want? Where are we going? Where's the human? To read science fiction is to be somebody who wants to know, I wonder where humanity is going to be in the year 10,191, right, which is the year Dune is set in. Nowadays, people are like, we're never going to make it that far.
Well, and to read science fiction is to be confronted as opposed to being comforted.
Yes.
This is not, it is the fantasy, the ideas and the questions that science fiction poses couched within that genre that allow you to actually think about it and apply it to the real world. And it makes you think and it makes you wonder. And it's like, okay, fine, sure. This is acceptable because the idea, the logic makes sense to me and it applies to the world in which I live, and be damned with the consequences. But philosophically, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, like, for instance, like I said, Islam in an Islamic culture influenced Dune, and they even use the word jihad. And I'm sure, I don't know if the studio's like, well, you can't use that word or whatever. Like, well, no, I mean, these things were very much a part of what Frank Herbert was doing. Yeah. He was being very influenced by Earth culture, and that's not a bad thing. So. No, and I think that, you know, we, like, this movie has to do, you know, it's got to make $800 to $1 billion for it to be a success.
Is it gonna? We shall see. I'm asking for your bets. Yeah. Who's gonna win? Is it gonna be Dune? Is it gonna be able to build it? It looks visually stunning. It does have the cast. It doesn't look like a dour slog. It looks like a great outer space adventure fantasy Lord of the Rings type epic. And I want to see all three. I've got the book. I got to read the first one, I tell you. But I really hope it captures the imagination of the general audience. It's, as you said, it's not going to be 4-quadrant, but I'll take 2.
Well, look, I mean, my whole thing is I tend to believe, I'm optimistic that when people, even in this day and age, are confronted with something that is undeniably compelling, they'll watch. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to get people like Zendaya, people who are Zendaya fans, you know, they're going to come in. Timothée Chalamet has a lot of younger fans. Obviously, he's appealing to both men and women. And I think that there is a chance that people will watch this, and it'll be an experience. It'll be a transportive experience that people are going to be like, oh my God.
Right. It'll be a discovery, like people that came onto or found The Expanse was a discovery, and they're like, wait a minute, they're really, we're talking about huge concepts here, and hopefully this Dune will do that. One other bit of news dropped today, along with the trailer. The Dune HBO Max series enlists Diane Ademu-John as new showrunner for the Sisterhood. Now, I don't think there's any literary material that this is based on. This is completely new as far as I know. Is that correct, Rob?
But there's a lot of background
they're taking from.
Yeah, and it's all about the Bene Gesserit. And one of the things, here's another thing that really has been driving me bonkers. The role of women in the Dune universe is extraordinarily important.
Absolutely.
And as the books, especially Herbert's books, move forward, women take a front. They're much more front and center. And so there's a big change in this book, a gender swap, where Liet Kynes, Dr. Kynes, who is in the book is a man. Well, now it's been gender swapped to a woman, and she's, I guess, presumably Chani's mother, because in the book, Dr. Kynes is Chani's father. And people are like complain. I'm like, no, this does not matter to me at all, because the feminine and the female characters in this story are incredibly important. So I think gender swapping a character like Dr. Kynes, who, by the way, isn't long for the story anyway,
and most people don't even know who that character is. So what difference does it make?
Right, and I think
was that Dean Stockwell?
No, that was Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow.
Fine.
Dean Stockwell was Dr. Yui in Lynch's version. And I think
Rob, I really appreciate you being on with some guy who doesn't know anything about Dune. It's
awesome.
the tip of the hat.
Well, no, you've got them. No, but why should you be expected to? That's the whole thing. Nobody can be. The thing is, the movie has to be for everyone. And the people that like Dune and know Dune, I think it's going to be very gratifying. But really, those people, I hate to say it, they don't matter on a scale, on a movie that's on this scale. What you have to do is you want to get new audiences, and they're going to feel that Dune is their own discovery. And I think, look, there's going to be people. One of the things that in my mind, studio filmmaking, this should be par for the course. We should be getting Dunes all the time. And what I mean by that is big budget studio movies made by directors that really know what they're doing, with all of the craftspeople working at the top of their game. But nowadays they're not, because everything is being pre-marketed and pre-decided by the studios, and they're finding filmmakers they think will be a good fit and plugging them in to the stories they already want to make, as opposed to getting a filmmaker that is making this his life's ambition. Right. It is his life's ambition. And I feel like we grew up in a time, especially in the 80s and 90s, studio filmmaking, they were making all different kinds of movies because it was driven by material and the talent that wanted to make that material. And nowadays the studios, they're not really taking pitches. Like a filmmaker walks in and says, I really want to do this. The studios are like, no. We need IPs that we can trust, that we know, that we can pre-sell, and we've mitigated our risk. And Dune is a risk, even though it's a known IP.
What I'm hoping, sorry, Scott. What I'm hoping happens is that people who found the book maybe a bit daunting or inaccessible will find that, okay, I can watch this movie. I watched 2 or 3 of Denis Villeneuve's other movies. I like those. Sicario was awesome, or whatever, and say, okay, now I can actually engage with this material, because I don't, I'm not going to read a 700-page book or whatever it is. So that's my hope, anyways. What I know we only have you for a short amount of time, Rob, and I know a bunch of people in the chat want to talk to you. So let's maybe if everybody's okay with it, we'll switch over and start taking some questions and comments.
Yeah, whatever you guys need.
Cool. Let's see. Let's start with Scotty. You want to read off the comments today?
I do. 756 pages is Dune.
That was close.
So Sly Snide, afternoon, friends and fellow cinephiles. Afternoon,
Afternoon.
Sly Snide. Todd Michael says, hello there, Sly Snide.
Yeah, we're going a little back and forth.
Phantasmagorium now with 100% more Robert Meyer Burnett. It's a true percentage.
Yes.
Awesome. And we're better for it.
Yes. Rob Slice Knight says hello.
Hello. Slice Knight.
Black Philip Alvarez says, okay, who needs sleep? I had to watch. Welcome, RMB.
Awesome.
Hello. I always need more sleep.
Who needs sleep? You're never going to get it.
I know.
Not enough hours in the day.
Todd Michael says, glorious day. Hell, it is an odd, chilly 65 degrees here in Ohio today. Would normally be in the high 90s. Really, I'm having such a... I woke up this morning and I had such a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood vibe going. It was a hot day. It was sunny. I had to go put up a TV. It was great. Todd Michael says, today is beyond glorious.
Yes, it is.
It is beyond glorious.
Hey there, BPA, to Black Philip Alvarez. I assume that's what the acronym was. Hello there, Todd Michael. Another rainy day in here. Another rainy day in Texas. Well, that's terrible.
Okay, we need it.
Yeah.
Well, we always need the rain.
We need the rain.
Todd Michael says, if she actually says Paul there, methinks we shall not have the name Usul in this, but he'll always be the base of the pillar to me.
Tell me about your homeworld, Usul. Yes. Yeah. Well, probably not. I would imagine. I don't remember that being in the script yet because that's really the second half.
Oh, okay.
Right. I don't even know if we're going to hear Muad'Dib. I think we do. Yeah. But yeah, it's.
Yes. Well, you were talking about them using some pulls from Islam, Muad'Dib, Mahdi, and to go along with jihad.
Right.
That's all. That's all part of it.
Hey,
Turge.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, no, I mean, but there's a lot of Islam in this.
Yeah,
and I which I liked. I always liked all that stuff. I think it's really cool. So
yeah, it's cool to especially if it's your first introduction. Because that's what I love about all this geeky stuff and movies and TV shows. If it's your first introduction, at least for me, I always want to go learn more. Right. So it sends you down on a journey of learning.
Yeah. And I hope that it's not just Dune. I mean, they released the Dune graphic novel that's been coming out from what is it? Brian Herbert and Kevin G. Anderson. There's all those books. Frank Herbert's son wrote a bunch of books with Kevin J. Anderson that goes into the whole. I mean, they've written so many different books that carry on what Frank Herbert wrote. But for me, the real canon is the 6 Dune novels. And they're not all genius novels. I mean, Frank Herbert does get into the weeds frequently as the books go on. I mean, Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune are all over the place. Still very interesting.
Wasn't there God Emperor?
Yeah, that I really like God Emperor.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And there's the 6 books. There's Dune, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House Dune. But they're all worth reading.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Okay, Scotty.
We should start a book club.
I know.
Turge Tiberius Mork. Hello, sir. Indeed a glorious day. First day in over a week visiting my hometown in northern Norway. That it hasn't rained sideways up my ass.
Yeah, that's how the rain goes there.
I hate horizontal rain. Todd Michael says, Darwy O'Drade is the future of House Atreides. Just saying. Is that how you say that? Is that a character's name?
That's the actor.
Oh, the actor. Pardon me.
I believe.
God, I should do research. Oops, spoilers.
Oh, well.
/9. The cinematography is the biggest highlight for me. Yeah.
Oh, no, you know what? That's not the actor. That's the why am I being idiotic? She's a she's Bene Gesserit.
That makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yes. So the handbox lady.
No.
Or one of.
Oh, that's Mother Mohaim.
Yeah. My mistake.
Yeah, she's I don't know if she's above her or right below her. See, I'd have to look up the
hierarchy of the Bene Gesserit.
And again, I mean that might be something in the sisterhood that they deal with. I don't remember.
I'm looking forward to the sisterhood show. I think it has the potential to be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes on, and the Bene Gesserit sisterhood is really important compared when you move through the books. But again, it's funny, to be honest, I haven't read the Dune books. I mean, I read Dune when I was a kid, and then God Emperor of Dune came out. I want to say Dune came out in 65, but then Dune Messiah and Children of Dune came out when I was a little kid, but it wasn't until God Emperor was coming out that I really got into the books. And then it was like it was before God Emperor came out. I wanted to read Dune. The way I remember it, I read Dune. First 3 Dune books I got from the Science Fiction Book Club early on, like when I was 10, but I didn't read them until I was 12 or 13, and that was because God Emperor was coming out, and so I wanted to read it all. And but again, I haven't read. The last time I read Dune was, I don't remember when Chapter House Dune came out, but it was been 30 years or something. I have no idea. Right? So I don't remember. I don't remember all the other characters. It's hard to remember,
and that's why
I want to find out.
I can't wait for this to come. I wasn't a huge fan of David Lynch's version. I like it for what it is, the stylistically weird, take on the Dune. But I did like, and I'm probably in the minority, but I did like the miniseries on SciFi. I did like Children of Dune a little better than the first one.
Yeah,
but I to me it felt more like what I read when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, Chapter House Dune, as I'm seeing here, came out in 1985.
Yeah. So
I haven't read. That was the last Dune book I read, and that was 36 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
So it's like.
Tom Jr. Jackson, how are you, sir? From what I heard about last night, I want to check this out.
Oh, yeah.
Tom again. I didn't watch the trailer. I don't want to know much about it. Well, luckily, I can be your audience surrogate for not knowing much about Dune. But Tom, I agree with you. Rob, do you watch, obviously, it's your job. You have to watch all the trailers. Do you ever feel like you're spoiled by a trailer?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No, because even if a trailer is never, I've never seen a trailer that duplicates the experience of actually watching the finished film.
Even if it gives away a little bit of a secret.
Even if it never. I mean, to me, I can infer when I'm watching a movie. It's not like there are very many times I've seen a movie where I'm completely surprised by how the plot unfolds, because we've seen and read so many different stories that you can pretty much figure out what's going to happen by the way the story's unfolding and the antagonist and the protagonist and all that. So
Spider-Man's not going to die.
Yeah, right. You're never, there's never going to be, or if a villain is revealed, it's like, of course, there's very few things that when people go, you spoiled something for me. I'm like, well, you apparently haven't seen very many movies, because there's only so many ways this can go.
Yeah. I do admire people who go in clean, not seeing trailers or anything like that, and avoiding it and wanting to have the experience based on, I don't even know how they get the knowledge. If they haven't seen a trailer, have they read production notes? Was it a poster that got them into the theater?
I mean, I went into Infinity War unspoiled because I actively tried. I'm like, you know what? I was such a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where they were going to go with Infinity War. I didn't want to be spoiled. And I have to say, the experience of Infinity War was a lot more fun for me. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been fun, but just seeing how it unfolded was so much fun, and not knowing anything about it, not even knowing that, like, Doctor Strange and Iron Man would be talking in the Sanctum Sanctorum. I'm like, no idea. I had no idea any of that was, but it was a chore. I had to consciously not, to stay away from that stuff. And it was problematic, but I did enjoy the movie immensely, I think, because of it.
It's really hard in this day and age to stay unspoiled. You have to work at it.
Yes. Black Phillip Alvarez says, okay, I was interested in Dune at first, but that trailer looked pretty damn good. I
think Black Phillip was saying, okay, I was not interested in Dune at first, but yeah, it did look pretty damn good, buddy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of people. Look, it's so funny because Dune came out 1984. That was what, 37 years ago, and it's not something that's an old movie. I mean, most people, I always say, pop culture has a shelf life of 20 years, a half life of 20 years. And you go beyond that, people have to really seek stuff out because there's so much stuff that's been made in the interim that you can't really expect people to go out. I mean, even The Matrix is 22 years old now.
That's crazy.
And so to go back, and if people haven't, they're not necessarily interested. People who love science fiction, fantasy, and horror don't catch up with Dune because it's like, well, why should I? What is it about Dune that why should I watch Dune as opposed to watching The Matrix again? They know The Matrix is going to be interesting. And I'll say that if you're somebody who wasn't that interested in Dune and you end up watching the David Lynch Dune, I don't think it's going to do much to sway you to the Dune camp.
Right.
You're going to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's that Dean Stockwell movie.
Yeah. You're right. That and To Live and Die in LA. And it's and I love Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
You do.
Anyway, Facebook user says this movie might be the first one I have to see in IMAX first. Yes. I agree. Yeah. I'm gonna find the best theater I can. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I think that's one of the appeals of this. It's clear that you need to see it on the. I mean, this looks like something you can't miss on a big screen.
It is an event. That's a pre-order tickets and make sure you get there and get good seats and
the whole nine.
Wow, that was really good, guys. Like I am so jazzed for Dune now.
And, I know, man. I know.
Terje says, "Hi, all. By the way, I had to tune in. My parents are watching some cringe-inducing family show with morons singing along to C-list celebrities singing outside. Well, it sounds good. I don't know." Black Phillip Alvarez says, so it's also premiering on HBO Max as well. Yes. Oh, that's an interesting little
that day and date for Warner Brothers deal.
Now, we were having a conversation on the show the other day, Rob, and we were talking about the benefits of actually seeing a movie when you get it on demand through your subscription. Is that enticing people to go to see? Could it entice people to go see the movie in theater and say, no, that's one that I want to see in a cinema?
I think, yeah. I mean, look, part of the thing about movies now is that, especially when you can watch something on streaming, you want to entice audiences with an experience. Mm-hmm. Like you've got to see this. It's an overwhelming visual experience, and you want to see it in the theater with other audience members.
So do you find it is streaming and cinema both, like, is it a symbiotic relationship, or do you see it as being somewhat parasitic in the streaming?
No, I mean, I think that to me, going to a theater, it's an experience. Any movie, I don't care if it's a low budget indie movie or a giant studio tentpole, watching it on a large screen with a sound system that's enveloping you, where the sound is, you're feeling it in your body, and the images, like seeing a human face on a screen that's much larger than your TV. I mean, normally when we're watching TV shows and things, people are kind of, when you're in your room watching, people look, if this makes any sense, normal sized. Mm-hmm. But when you go to a movie theater, people are ginormous, and the experience of seeing humanity and a human being becomes larger than life. Mm-hmm. And when something, even a human face, is larger than life, then the story too is larger than life. And your experience of it, you're not being distracted by something. You've given yourself, you're there for a reason. When you turn on the TV, you've just turned on the TV. You can click out at a moment's notice. You can go to the bathroom. You can pick up your phone. You can do whatever. So your mind is not there. It's not. It might kind of be there. And maybe you're going to watch the new episode of Game of Thrones. So you're engaged for that amount of time, but your senses, there's still the rest of the room that you're sitting in, mm-hmm. Even if you turn off all the lights. But when you're in a movie theater, when those lights go down, there's nowhere else to go. There's nothing. There's just you and the story that you're experiencing. And I'm of the opinion, I have no science to back this up, that your mind is completely open. Your brain is completely open in a way that's different than if you're watching a streaming show. I know for myself that when I see a movie in a theater, I retain it much better than if I watch something at home on streaming.
Oh, interesting.
because and I feel it more.
Right.
Because the story it penetrates your mind more because you're focused. Your attention is focused. And now in the modern age, I mean, every time your phone lights up, you're looking at your phone. Even if you're watching something and you're really into it, you just look to see.
Right.
But you don't really do that in a theater.
No, you've already blocked out that time, so nothing really interrupts that time. You know, at home, the phone rings, the dinner has to happen, or the dogs need to go outside, whatever.
Well, and also for people who are just going back to the theater, I would like to remind you very kindly, please turn off your phones once you get into the cinema. Thank you.
All right, Scotty, what's next?
Slash9 says the HBO Max 30-day streaming plan will hurt the box office. So I hope Discovery sees fit to greenlight the next one. Rob, I was almost afraid to say Discovery because I didn't want to trigger.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm of two minds about this. Does it detract from the box office? Yes, I think it does. But it also brings people that weren't going to go see the movie in the theater anyways. We have people on the show that comment that they're much happier watching these things at home. They don't want to go to the theater, which is sacrilege to me. But I mean, we have to face the facts. So I don't know. I hope they greenlight the next one too, because it would be a shame if we get part one and then that's it.
And it may be dependent on the original material, which apparently it's good. It's got legs. Yeah, it's been hanging out for a while, and they've made a couple of movies or a couple of miniseries. It's been very well regarded. And so if you do watch it, the story is going to be engaging. And if you want to see it in the theater, you can see it in the theater. I would recommend that would be the best way to see it based on the trailer alone. I want to see that trailer in the theater.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
What's next?
I do too.
Yeah, me too.
Terje says... everything Denis has made that I've seen has been amazing. This will be the same, and I'm no big Dune dude. I am not a Dune dude either, but I agree with you. I'm reading the Foundation books in chronological order.
Oh yeah, cool.
I'm assuming that's the best way to read them. Terje says, I'm gonna watch Dune in the theater. It screams big screen, and I would also add on big sound.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
The David Goyer interview.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm Canadian. I automatically revert to the French enunciation. Okay. David Goyer interview published today is highly interesting. I haven't read it, but I'll take a look.
Yeah,
have you read it, Rob?
No, I haven't read it. It's in the Hollywood Reporter.
Okay.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
So Black Philip Alvarez says, laugh out loud. Good luck trying to read the whole chat today, boys. Well, we're plowing.
We're getting through it. And Rob, if you have to go, just let us know.
No, I'm pretty good. I mean, I've already pretty much set up my show. I already know what I'm going to talk about this.
About Dune.
Oh, okay. So, that's great.
That's a primer.
Pardon me. Slice Knight says, Star Trek didn't really tap great sci-fi concepts either. So much great sci-fi concepts unexplored by films and TV. Well, yeah, the breadth of things that have not been explored by sci-fi. Well, maybe it's just sci-fi you haven't discovered.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that there's a lot of sci-fi concepts because you had many science fiction novelists writing for the original Star Trek.
Right.
Mm-hmm. People like, George Clayton Johnson and Theodore Sturgeon and Sam Peoples and Robert Heinlein and Jerome Bixby and Harlan Ellison. I mean, there was real science fiction writers that were writing for Star Trek.
God, can you imagine if Heinlein did some Star Trek? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean that would have been interesting. I would love to have seen that. Yeah.
Well, we have to go back in time.
Yes.
Tom Jr. Jackson says so if it doesn't do well, Warner Brothers basically screwed themselves.
Let's get your take, Rob, on that. What do you think about I guess the whole day and date release strategy that Warner Brothers employed? I understand because of the pandemic. I think they thought this was the right strategy at the time. But do you think it really takes that big a chunk out of the box office?
I do.
Or since we knew this was coming, the pandemic obviously exacerbated that. but we knew this shift was coming. Do we now need a new metric or a new way to, it's not just going to be box office, a new way to measure success of movies?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I mean, the fact is, movies like this were greenlit based on a theatrical model. And the idea that people aren't going to go to the theater and they're going to be able to watch this. I mean, the theatrical streaming model might be fine in 3 or 4 years, but movies like Dune, movies like No Time to Die, the new Bond film, they were not made, nor were they financed based on a streaming / theatrical model, because they're always, even Black Widow was the expectation is this movie's going to do $800 million to $1 billion, because that's the expectation, or maybe $750 million to $1 billion, because that's the expectation the Marvel movies had been set at after looking at 23 films theatrically. People aren't going to go to the theater if they can see it at home. If you're given a choice, families aren't going to go, people aren't going to go. And I think the idea is that it's the same thing that happened in the 50s with the advent of television. Movies had to compete. So what they did was they figured out, well, we're going to go widescreen, CinemaScope. Movies got bigger. And I still think that strategy is sound. I mean, this is a movie. Dune is going to be an experience.
Yeah.
And if you're seeing it on streaming, you're missing it. You're missing the experience that you would get seeing this in a theater with your friends and family. This is something that you need to go and experience on the biggest screen possible with the biggest sound system possible. And if you don't do that, you're only getting a part of the experience. Because you could watch the story and the characters and get something from that. But, even when you're walking out on those vistas and you're seeing the wind blowing and you're seeing the spice in the air and you hear that sound and all that, if you deprive yourself of that, you're depriving yourself of an experience. But you know what? I think that's something that our society has now been trained to do. I mean, we are creatures of many sensory experiences. And I think one of the things about going to see a movie like this, a tentpole film where people have slaved over a sound mix, if you're not feeling this in your bones when you watch it, you are missing half the experience that the filmmakers have designed for you. Hearing overwhelming sound, feeling low rumbling bass when the sandworms show up, presumably, seeing these giant images that are meant to be seen on a big screen, visual effects that are seamless with the live action footage they shot in the actual deserts that they shot in. You're depriving yourself of that. And we now in our quick society where, like, give it to me right now. I need to see it, know what it's about, and I'll be done. Well, that's the problem. People are missing out on half the experience. It's like our lives are such that people don't even they go to museums, they look at paintings, they walk around, they leave. You ever go to a museum now? You just watch people kind of wander around and kind of look and all that. There's no contemplation that goes on. It's like, we're in the Louvre. Let's go see the Mona Lisa. There it is. Oh, it's smaller than I thought.
Right.
It's not and then a mall.
Yeah, and then you see these people gathering around, and I let me take my selfie of the Mona Lisa. And this is what's happened to our culture. We've forgotten as beings. I mean, it's like when you're at a rock concert, put your fucking phone down and close your eyes. And when I saw the Joshua Tree tour, I saw the original in '87. When they brought it back to the Rose Bowl, I saw they had this wall of speakers. And, everybody's holding up their phones. Why would you possibly? Part of what you're doing at a live show, especially with speakers that large, is to feel the music. And when the edge starts shredding the power of that bass, there was one point where I just closed my eyes and outstretched my arms because we were behind the speaker. They fired right at us. Yeah. And I'm like, I had to keep my arms down to not block anyone else's face. But I'm just sitting there and I was just bathed. I think it was Bullet the Blue Sky, it was amazing. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my God. I was at a classical concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and these idiots came in halfway through the concert, and they're just yammering away, and I did my thing. I don't usually do this. I'm not proud when I do stuff like this. I turned around and put on the Clint Eastwood voice, and I said, if you don't shut up, I'm going to slit your throats. and then you turn around, and people, nowadays, they freak out.
Yeah.
And when the concert was, because it's like, who are you to come into a concert, which is the only reason you're there is to hear music,
right?
A classical concert. And if you're talking and everyone's talking, they're gabbing away. I mean, these are early 20-something idiots who got tickets. They don't even know what it's like to truly experience something.
Right. They treat it as a social gathering, a social event.
And it's yammer away. And this is the problem with I think, especially in America, we have forgotten how to experience. We don't know how to do it anymore. And it's because it's part of our conditioning. It's all about me. And I because we've tailored our intake of information. Well, it used to be the exact opposite. You would go someplace and you would puzzle over it, and you'd see it, and what do I have to learn here, and what's going on? And if it doesn't engage you immediately, you tune out. I'm bored. Yeah. And I think it's permeated all of our. We have no more political discourse because nobody wants to hear something that they don't agree with immediately.
Right.
That's why we have such deep political divides in this country, because people aren't listening. You got to stop and listen and be contemplative and be like, okay, please explain to me what's happening here so I can learn. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So like the idea that you're going to a concert, I mean, these people in the first place, they had no interest in listening. They probably got free tickets from work or something.
Right.
And when I turned around, what was really interesting after the concert was over, some guy wanted to step up to me, and start some static. And that's the same thing. You look at somebody just right in front of you and you're like, would you like to go outside? Mm-hmm. And just stare at them, because they'll back the fuck down.
Yeah.
Because they won't do it. They get their blood up and they think in front of their friends, but to actually confront somebody. Now that's sometimes on a city street, someone will pull out a gat and blow you away. Right. So there is that risk.
Gotta be
but
careful.
For the most part, people don't even know how to confront each other anymore. And it's really interesting. They think like if they're in a situation where they hope the crowd will follow them, their righteous indignation of something. They because they don't really have the courage of their convictions. They've only learned to parrot talking points they've heard from other people that they tend to agree with. So if you actually stop and ask somebody to please and have an engaging conversation, like I had a guy today on Twitter accuse me because of the Axonar project, and the guy that I used to work with accusing me of being a thief and all this. I said to them, I'm like, okay, you want to accuse me of that? Please come on my live show. Mm-hmm. You can come on my show at any time, and I will answer in a public forum live, meaning everybody who's watching the show can also ask me questions. Come on, you name the date. I've said that to people like 3 or 4 times. No one's taking me up on it.
Of course not.
And I'm like, listen,
keyboard warriors.
Yeah, if you and that's my go-to position. If you want to accuse me like I was accused by Alec Peters of being a thief, and he says I didn't do any work on the show, and I'm like, well, I did all of the work on the show, but you want to put that up to scrutiny, you can. And I love doing that because no one takes the bait anymore. Yeah. And it's, I mean, that's the situation we live in. And I think what's happening is we're missing out as a culture on half of what it means to be alive on Earth, like half of existence, because we have forgotten how to experience the world.
Right.
We want it experienced, right now. We want a blast of a TikTok video. We want to read a meme. That's why people they even answer questions. If you bring up something, you get an answer back as a meme.
As a meme.
Like I always get the old man yelling at clouds from The Simpsons. Right. And I'm like, wow, how creative. I've never seen that before after you get it for the 798th time. And you're like, really? Is that the limit of your intellect? Your answer to this is a Simpsons meme that you didn't even make? It's a meme you got from somebody else?
But it's also such a disappointment that the point of conversation is to be able to invite new ideas. I look forward to having my mind changed. If you can convince me that I'm wrong, then I've learned something today. Kudos on you, and look at me, I'm growing. It's not your job in a conversation is not to be right. It's not to be correct. It's not to win. It's to, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I may disagree, but yeah, no, I get it. I had this whole thing going on that I thought, what is the point of watching Bohemian Rhapsody if you could just listen to the Queen soundtrack? And I woke up this morning and I was listening to a soundtrack to one of my favorite movies. And I was like, damn, I have to turn on that movie now. And I understand why I was wrong about criticizing Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's just what? And as soon as I found that out, I was like, oh, I got to send a message saying I'm a dick. And that's the point of the conversation. You're supposed to open your mind.
Yeah, we've forgotten how to engage each other in conversation. Everything is, you know, it's 0 or 10. It's you're either on this side. It's all tribal, right? It's you're on this side and I'm on that side. Instead of, like I said up top of the show, knowledge comes from the debate, and we have to be able to have civil, nuanced debates about everything. That way, things don't get even worse.
Well, now what's really weird is the idea that this country is now, you know, the divide between the Republicans and the Democrats is such that we don't even know what our differences are. We just know that we're against those people, and they're against us.
Right.
And it's like, I find that so odd to me because, you know, like when I was first moved to LA and I was a PA, this is in the early 90s, and I did a lot of driving. I was a production assistant, so you did a lot of driving. You drove all over the place to different sets and things. I listened to a lot of Rush Limbaugh. And Rush Limbaugh was a very different personality in the early 90s because his show was interesting and he had different kinds of people on. And it was just a show about politics. And he would have guests on that would talk and he would engage them. Well, as an entertainer, and as he figured out who he was playing to, he started playing to as a conservative and more of a Republican base. And he moved away from actual political inquiry more into this partisan divide. And it was kind of a bummer because when I was growing up, I found myself divided. There were certain Democratic ideals I believed in, but then there was also Republican ideals that I believed in, or conservative ideals that I believed in, like fiscal responsibility, for instance, and personal responsibility and things like that. And I feel like the whole point was that we had that kind of inquiry in this country. But now I look at college campuses and kids protest speakers on campus.
Yeah, the only place you're getting the classical liberal, which I consider myself like the libertarian viewpoint, is on YouTube.
Right, exactly. And you know,
that's the only place you're getting it.
That's why people, I think, like Joe Rogan so much, is because he has a wide variety of people on, and you have a conversation that lasts for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we're watching cable news where you get a sound bite that doesn't mean anything. It could be tailored to mean anything you want it to, and it lasts 2 seconds. And it's like, well, what's really happening here? I don't know, because there isn't really a conversation. I've just heard a sound bite. And that's why, going back to the question of streaming, I think you can't really see a movie and experience a movie unless you see it and experience it in a theater, because it's the environment was designed to make the rest of the world disappear, literally, and only show you a film. And that's what the point of cinema going is. Now, watching TV and all that, I understand all that, and that's fine, but you're never going to experience something the same way you do when you're in a theater.
No, we always say that. As badass as you think your home theater system is, it doesn't hold a candle to the actual theater going experience.
I mean, I have to tell you, I know some people that have $1 million plus home theaters, and they are amazing.
Yeah.
Now, technically, maybe not as big. I haven't seen a screen as big as the biggest screens, but I've been in theaters where they look and sound just as good. The problem is, you're still at home.
Yeah.
You're still at home.
And most of us don't have $1 million to spend on a home theater,
right? But you're always you know you're home.
Yeah,
you know, and you get up and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I got to put this on pause. Oh wait, I'm getting a phone call. Hang on, I got to take this call. You're never. The mindset is different.
Correct.
You know, it's like when you watch a movie in the theater, it's almost like you're doing yoga. You know, you get into this position and you're concentrating on all of the positions, because doing yoga wrong is bad. So what you're doing is when you're really into yoga and you're working out or getting into your different positions, whether it's what is that? There's downward dogs. We all love that. But the presentation, whatever. You have to be thinking about yoga, about these positions, because how you hold your positions is really, really important. Now, especially when you're in a class, I think when you go to a yoga class with an instructor, you're there, you're present. But when you're watching a movie at home, you know, you can be really into it, but you're not as into it as you would be in a movie theater.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Scotty, what's next?
Cam says, hi, everyone. Scotty R37, Steve Foley, and the Burnett Work. Hi,
Hello.
Scotty, Steve, and Rob. Good to see you on the channel, Rob. These guys do great work at Quinn's Ideas. Quinn is a Dune Uber fan and a great creator.
Yeah, no, he is. I really like Quinn's Ideas. He does a lot of deep dives into sci-fi and fantasy literature, and it was really cool. It was really telling for me to see how excited he was, because he did a stream. He went and saw the thing in San Francisco, and he went right home and did a stream, and just the glint in his eye, the excitement was very, very telling.
I couldn't believe how excited I was after watching this trailer. Usually I watch even big epic, Marvel films. This one really got me excited. I couldn't believe how, excited I was for the movie. So there's something about it. Hopefully that transcends and transforms into butts into seats. We'll have to see.
I certainly hope so.
Me too.
Slice Knight says, I wish sci-fi writ large would be more high concept, whereas a lot of it is I tumbled
That's okay, you're doing good.
I wish sci-fi writ large would be more high concept, whereas a lot of it is just has sci-fi elements, but the plots are very grounded. Well, and sci-fi doesn't have to be all that out there. It doesn't have to be fantastic, and can just be one little thing. Like, look at Her.
Yeah, I love Her, by the way. That's a great example.
I'm a huge fan of Her.
And one of my favorite sci-fi movies, Mr. Nobody.
Oh, dude, I love Mr. Nobody, especially the longer director's cut. It's great. It's great.
It's great.
Tom, everyone has to say great. Tom Jr. Jackson says, I could never get into the book, but I am willing to give this film a chance. Hey, man. Yeah. And so I kind of, should I read the book before I see the movie, or should I, in which order would you do it, Rob, if you were allowed to approach this material fresh?
I would always read the book first.
Okay.
Because that way you get an interesting perspective. Plus, the book is going to take you through the whole story, whereas the movie's only going to give you half the story. So you'll be able to make certain judgments about how things were presented, and they might never get around to making the second part.
Oh, don't say that, man. I'm going to be super bummed out if they pull the plug on that part 2.
Dude, me too. Me too.
Heart through the floor. Okay, what's next, Scotty?
Black Philip Alvarez says, well, Scott, this young cat here may need to see this in theaters. I don't know if you're talking about me or you, but I think we should go together.
Yeah.
Sly Snide says, to your point, Rob, Star Wars had sci-fi elements, but the stories were classic fantasy literature, but not sci-fi. Agreed.
Yeah, agreed with that.
I completely agree with that. And it is. I mean, look, I like Star Wars. It is space fantasy and all that. And I have no problem with any of that. But yeah, it's fantasy tropes. It's classic fantasy storytelling.
Space opera.
Yeah, it's completely that. And that's fine. I mean, I like it.
I love it.
I just like the vehicles in sci-fi as opposed to fantasy. Well, you can get places faster in sci-fi. Fantasy takes so long. You got to walk.
Yeah,
Damn C says, I think Steve just made a great point about movies and, well, Steve, you have a fan, and things political point scoring nowadays. I think it'll be weird watching these movie shows in 20 plus years when politics has evolved more. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I agree with that 100%. Gentlemen, I have to dip out.
Okay, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I kind of stab in the dark. I watched got so excited, watched the trailer, and I'm like, you know what? I got to talk to Rob and see if he has an hour for us today.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is great. Thanks for asking me. I mean, a lot of the time I can't. Today, what's interesting is I've got this weird schedule today where I'm waiting on something I was supposed to have this morning. So I was lucky. It was just I had opening. So yeah, man, why not?
Perfect timing.
Let's talk Dune.
Yeah, thanks again for coming. Everybody here knows where to find you, but if you'd like to plug, please be my guest.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, come follow me at Robert Meyer Burnett, and Twitter, Burnett RM, and of course on my own channel, The Burnett Work.
Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely, big fan, man. Thank you so much for gracing. Also,
you guys do a good job. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, sir.
We'll see you on your show.
All right. Be seeing you, as the prisoner would say.
Awesome.
Well, that was just a whole lot of fun. Now the people in the chat are going to be disappointed because Rob's not here.
Yeah, we're like, oh, well, I'm out.
Anyway, we still got 8 minutes before Robservations start, so we should.
Let's try to get through these comments.
Yes, not get through them. Enjoy each one of them.
Yes,
we will. Facebook user says it's a smart move to put
Shawnee
at the front if the script is only covering the first half. Now it's interesting because I saw Daniel Coyle was saying in the chat, he was like, "Can you guys not see which Facebook user is saying the chats?" And I'm curious if
for some reason when you're commenting on Facebook, it just says Facebook user, or sometimes it says anonymous Facebook user, and I don't know if I'm unfamiliar with it, so I don't know if you can choose or pick, how you. I'm not sure. It just doesn't seem to work. But for us, I think the best way to engage, fine if Facebook is your thing, but is to go onto YouTube to the show and jump in the live chat there.
And I just got a confirmation that was Daniel Coyle. So I am going to attribute every Facebook comment to Daniel Coyle. I apologize to anyone who isn't Dan. Terje says, my all-time favorite hard sci-fi movie has to be Contact.
I love Contact.
Contact, yeah. Movie. It is a great movie and a great book as well. Mm-hmm. Dan, No Emperor. Oh, man, I was really hoping for a wacky celebrity cameo.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get it in this series of films.
For a second there, I forgot that Sean Connery was passed on.
Yeah.
I was like, he'd be a great galactic emperor. Yeah. Slice Knight says, agreed that mainstream audience have been infantilized. Agreed. Yeah, I think that was an excellent, Terje, agree with Robert. Shots and FX look seamless, really like it's all part of each other. It does look seamless. It looks photorealistic. I don't see any sort of matte. It looks like they're there. They're on Arrakis, man. Right. It looks a really believable vision. Absolutely.
Yeah, they flew to Arrakis and shot it there.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you? They have all that money.
Bezos got it.
Yeah.
Take me to Arrakis, Jeff.
Tom Jr. Jackson says, I'll probably watch this one on HBO. Fair enough.
I'm going to have to find the biggest screen. Black Philip Alvarez says, Dune sounds like something you don't want to infantile at Snide. Yeah. And maybe that's why I've always been somewhat intimidated by it when I get into the books and I start when I get in 5, 10, 15 pages in, it isn't an easy read. It isn't.
It's a dense read. It's high concept, but man, once it hooks you, it really hooks you, and then you're in. It just, and that's why I think we were talking about the accessibility. I'm hoping that people that always wanted to read the book but just couldn't. And thought maybe the David Lynch was a little outside of their purview, we'll find this a little more palatable and accessible.
Terje says to Black Phillip, that version is called Dude, Where's My Spice?
The infantilized version?
Yes. Todd Michael says to Black Philip Alvarez, then you haven't seen the awful continuations from Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert. Total abomination storytelling. And I'm not, I don't know about it, but whenever the offspring picks up the mantle from the original author, it does tend to, I don't want to say sour, but it's obviously.
So I haven't read those books, but a good friend of mine has. He's the one that really when we were kids, got me into Dune. He says that they're hit and miss. They're not complete crap, but they're not. I mean, obviously, none of it's going to hold up to the 6-book canon that Rob was talking about earlier.
Tom Jr. Jackson says, my most anticipated movie I am waiting for is The Jungle Cruise and Eternals. I am excited for Eternals and Jungle Cruise as well. It looks like a fun movie.
I don't know about the Jungle Cruise. Is that dropping on Premiere VOD as well? I think you can pay the $30.
Is it a Disney?
I think it's a Disney.
I think that after Jungle Cruise, I think it's up in the air as to what else is going to be released day and date.
Okay.
Black Philip Alvarez says, sadly, I'll admit I'm not all too familiar with Dune, Todd Michael, or the Lynch version. Well,
watch this one. Yeah. There's homework, or wait for this to come out in October.
Hey man, if you don't want spoilers, ignore it completely until it shows up in theaters, Phil. Tom Jr. Jackson says, I tried to read the book of Dune and I couldn't get into it, but I said will be willing to give the film a chance. And awesome. Yeah, man. Me too. I tried. I have it. I haven't read it. You're not alone. Black Philip Alvarez says Denis Villeneuve has the potential to be another Nolan or Fincher, if not already. I would say he's pretty close. He's up there in terms of just having a vision. I think he did. I know that there are detractors for Blade Runner 2049, but that and Arrival and Sicario, I think, have elevated him to a point where, I will see anything that he has made in theater. Yeah. Todd Michael says to Black Philip Alvarez, the original novels are my primary genre fiction love. Wow. All other things fall the wayside for me when it comes to Dune. I love the novel so much I may not even see the new film. Really? You love something so much that you will not see? I understand that feeling, though, man. I get that.
I know, but I think this. Look, I think Denis Villeneuve has the reverence for the material and is going to produce something that you'll like. I mean, that's my guess. Go ahead.
Absolutely. May I just ask you to check out private chat for just 1 second?
I did. Go ahead.
Thank you. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. I have a hamster's bladder.
It is a long show today. Slice Night said, I still wish Jodorowsky's Dune got made. Me too. If you've seen the documentary, it's really good. And some of the concepts are really, really well done. Black Philip Alvarez says, I've seen others in Rob's live chat say the same thing at Todd Michael. Todd Michael says at Black Philip Alvarez. It looks very much like a labor of love. Don't get me wrong, looks amazing, but the last 4 Dune novels are like scripture to me, so adaptations can be dangerous. Yes. I agree, but I think we're in for something truly special. And that, like I said at the top of the show, it could be me just with the rose-colored glasses on, but man, from what I've seen in the last 2 trailers, I'm super hyped for this. Terje says, I guess it rains Dune there in Africa. Yes, it does. Funny guy. Todd Michael, for me, that is. Yes, for you. That's fine. Look, and if it's something that you feel is going to ruin your experience with, because you have such a love for the material and the literature, then you skip it. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd skip this one. It looks really good. Tom's responding to Terje. Oh, we had a jump. What happened there? I can't find where I was. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I'm trying to find my place. I completely lost my place. I don't know what happened here. Oh, no.
Don't worry. I'll vamp.
All right. I don't know what happened, but it completely lost track of where we were.
Okay. Well, last one that I can see is Tom. Oh, where are we? I will help. I'm going to go look. And where are we?
I don't know what happened there.
Well, it's
we have a ton of comments. I don't know if we're going to be able to get. Oh, there we are. I got it. Okay.
Oh, thank heavens.
Sorry about that, guys.
Minor technical difficulties would be. We do appreciate your patience.
Yes. All right, Scotty, you want to pick up?
Terje says to Todd Michael, I haven't read the books, but I'm a horrible reader. Well, you haven't read it until you've read it in the original Norwegian. Right. Slice Knight says, if Dune is a box office flop, heavens, and Discovery Warner approves, thank you for amending that and calling it Discovery Warner, approves the sequels anyway, then I'll be less worried about the fact that a reality TV conglomerate has merged with WB. And that's an interesting point. However, sure. I think that the production of Dune was after that particular merger. Or before. It was before that merger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if it does, then hopefully Discovery Warner realizes what they can do. But I do trust Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has always Casablanca is one of my favorite movies. Well, so I've always been a huge fan of that studio, and I wish them the most of the best of success. Although the Discovery thing is a little weird.
It is a little weird.
And Turget agrees with you, Slice Night. Tom says, "Oh, don't judge a Turget by its cover." Fair enough. Turget says, "Folks, if I should pick one sci-fi book to read, which one?"
There's so many good ones.
For the purposes of this conversation, Dune.
Tom Junior Jackson says the Bible. Okay.
The Bible. Todd Michael says that's a tough, loaded question there. Yeah, but Todd Michael, you're qualified.
Yeah, you are qualified.
Black Phillip Alvarez says, so how much does Dune have to make to be considered a hit? $1 billion, like literally.
Man, yeah, it's going to be hard, right? Because we're still we're still trying to judge this against 2019 numbers. The reality is 2019 was an exceptionally good year for movie box office, and then I guess it'll be held up against other franchises like Marvel. I would say they need to hit 750 million plus.
Yeah, and the thing that I had in the back of my noggin was how much did Joss Whedon, like the theatrical cut of Justice League, made? That was like 850 million,
something like that. Yeah, worldwide. Yeah,
but the production cost and marketing for that was far higher than Dune.
Tom says 100 million.
Yeah, at least a couple of $100.
Yeah.
Turget says to Todd Michael, I like my questions like I like my nachos. Loaded. And Black Phillip Alvarez is high-fiving Tom. And thanks, BP. Tom asks, where are we going? To see the wizard? I'm assuming you're referring to the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Black Phillip Alvarez says, wow, that's a tall order there, Rob, as far as gross. But I think that he's
right, though.
I think he is, and that's why I think, and I somewhere between 800 million and $1 billion it has to make to really secure the future of this particular franchise. Sly Snice says not enough intellectual thought in films these days.
Agreed.
Well, and it also, there are some out there. It's a matter of you got to sift through the big popcorn movies to find the intelligent ones.
You do have to find it. You have to search it out.
Sometimes you can find it in genre. Like, hey, we didn't even talk about Nope, but look at Get Out. Get Out is ostensibly a science fiction horror movie that has some interesting ideas about race relations. And so the ideas are there. I don't think that's an infantile film. No. Black Phillip Alvarez says, I'll tell you what, I'll see it on IMAX first, and if I end up digging it, then I'll see it again in theaters just for the support. Well, IMAX is a theater. Oh, Max. Sorry, not IMAX. Max. HBO. And
Max and Relax.
Max and Relax. Trademark, Steve. Tom Junior Jackson says, I'll just see it on HBO Max. And that's up to you, man. And if you do feel the need to go to a theater to check out, if it is that enticing, see it how you'd like to. See it if you're comfortable. But I think that this is one that you need to have wash over you. Todd Michael says, I'll be very angry if Stilgar somehow is made to be Shani's father. That would ruin key elements of the Children of Dune's Stilgar characterization.
Yes,
Take it, Steve.
I'm just going to agree. Yeah. Hopefully they handle that with the right way. I'm going to reserve judgment because this is all secondhand stuff. I haven't read anything that says that yet. So until I know more, I'm just going to agree with you. It changes key elements of Children of Dune. And when we get to that third movie, yikes, that could have a real impact.
Slice Knight says people who complain about gender swapping a minor character probably aren't intellectual enough to really understand the source material. Laughing out loud. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Have I ever really had a problem with a gender swap character?
It depends how it's handled, right? Because I guarantee you, Eric July could come on the show and pretty much wipe the floor with anybody who wanted to debate him about this issue about gender swapping and tokenization.
For sure, he is knowledgeable in that and quite correct in certain aspects. But can you think of any?
But he doesn't blanket. He doesn't make blanket statements. He's very specific, and not everyone. Like if it's somebody that, like I said earlier, if it's a character that nobody knows, then who cares, right? Especially, or if it's a, you know what I mean. If 5 comic book people, you know what I mean. That's an over exaggeration, but I mean, you know, comic book fans are like 5% of the total movie going audience.
Like, I'm trying to think of a character that has been gender swapped where I've been upset by the swapping. And I can't think of one, so I'll move on. Sly Snide says, pardon me.
Did that one?
We did just do that one. So Terje says, I'd like more female characters to be made male. Barbie the Barbarian. Well, yeah, no. What about Rainbow the Brute? And which is Ethan Van Sciver's comic book. Tom Jr. Jackson says, my question for Rob, what do you think about Warner producing 10 movies in 2022? I would recommend you go over and check out Robservations and ask that gentleman that question on his show.
Sorry we didn't have him for longer, so we didn't realize
happy
we could have got to the question sooner, but we were having such a good conversation that
so excited that he got to come on today. I'm really flattered. It was
really cool of him.
10 movies for HBO Max. Oh, are they going to be exclusive to HBO Max? Okay.
Yeah. Those are day and dates.
Black Phillip Alvarez says, we'll be here an hour going through all of the chats. Yes, yes, indeed.
Yeah, wow. Jeffrey
Mao.
We
thank you. Jeffrey Mao. Hey, Jeff, what's going on, man? Hail RMB. I'm sure he appreciates it. Stephen Scott. I'll try to finish reading Dune before the film premieres. I'm on chapter 8.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can do it. You got until October 22nd, I think it said. Yeah, you got it.
I think, 756 pages in my copy, so I gotta start reading. Daniel Coyle. See, there you are. Have you all seen The King on Netflix? It's almost Timothée Chalamet's Muad'Dib audition reel. I have not seen it.
I have not either, but thank you for the suggestion because I probably will go check that out. I've heard about it. I just never got around to seeing it.
Let me write that down. Yeah. The King. Okay. Todd Michael says, can you read that?
I don't know what it is.
Darwi O'Drade is a descendant of Atreides. She's Mother Superior of the Order in Chapter House Dune.
Yeah, I haven't read it, so I'm unfamiliar with the character.
It's really, really exciting just to be able to be introduced to all of this new stuff, and with the impetus of the movie coming out, and I've always wanted, like, obviously I own the book, I've wanted to read the book, and so I'm glad that this is the opportunity that is right in front of me. Daniel Coyle says, I had assumed the Sisterhood show wasn't happening, but it looks to be back on track. Well, and there was a shuffling of showrunners.
I think that's why everybody assumed that it was a no-go, but it looks like it's back on track. They found their showrunner, and moving forward. Well, I can't wait for it.
And the thing that's really interesting about that is that the previous showrunner is moving to writing the second chapter of the film trilogy.
Correct. Which is good. So
in-house passion.
Writing it, show running it. Yeah.
Sly Side says, damn, the chat wasn't showing me everyone else's comments till now. There's a button. There's probably a button for that.
There's got to be a button.
Black Phillip Alvarez says, Sly Side, normally it's just Todd, Michael, and Terje in the chats. It's true. We love them. Yeah, it is definitely a bit of a mosh pit going on right now, and thank you all for being here.
But that's what happens when you have a big YouTuber on as a guest. You know, a lot of people want to come and see him, and hopefully you'll stick around for Scotty and Steve and come back and join us every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Please, absolutely. And don't call him a YouTuber. He's the director of Free Enterprise.
He absolutely is.
Come on.
It wasn't a diss.
I know. You were trying to be complimentary.
I was trying to be complimentary.
I had such a hard time trying
What's
to
next?
Terje says, don't talk about Terje Todd Club. Oh, we can't. That's the first rule. Yeah. And see, Todd, Michael, you broke the rule, so move on.
Okay.
Tom says, well, we are forgetting about Jiu-Jitsu, where it was basically the movie in the trailer. There was no jujitsu in jujitsu, though, right?
If I don't think correctly. So.
All right. But I get your point, Tom. I appreciate that. Terje says, Todd Michael, great minds think alike. I don't even know what the rest of the rules of Terje Todd Club is. Black Phillip says, never. Cam says, Darwi Odrade is the Mother Superior of the Bene Order in the later books. I read and reread these books 6 times as a young man, but it has been a good decade or more since I read them. Yeah. Cam, you are more knowledgeable on this stuff than I am. Black Philip Alvarez says, I make to the chat when I can or just appear on the show. This is true, cool guy. I accept your cool guy emoji. Jeff says, hail RMB, Stephen Scott. At this rate, I should finish reading Dune before the film debuts. I'm on chapter 8. I think.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
Jeff, I think I read that already.
Thanks for the second comment. Well, if you want to write in a third, we'll happily read that one too.
I was kind of hoping that he would be on chapter 9 by the second. Right. Black Philip Alvarez says the chairman is here at Jeffrey Mao. Yes, and awesome. Hey man, it's so good to see him. Hello, Mr. Chairman from Tom. Daniel Coyle says, wasn't it revealed that so far the day and date with HBO Max has backfired?
I don't know. I don't know that it's been revealed. I think look, obviously theater distributors, theater owners, NATO, a lot of industry people are pushing back on Warner Brothers. That was no secret. They don't like the day and date release schedules. No one does. The problem
except for the people who want to watch it at home, and they're jazzed.
Right, they're jazzed. And I think so I don't know that it has actually backfired. The problem with these streamers, we've talked about this on the show before, is that they're really closed off when it comes to transparency with the numbers. So, best guesses are pretty much all we get, unless they come out and tell you. And then when they tell you, I mean, do you really believe what they're telling you? I don't know. So has it backfired? I don't know.
Well, and
I get, like I said, we're moving into a new paradigm where we're going to have to create a new metric on how these things, how movies are judged opening weekend. It'll be like we talked about before. It'll be a box office combined with households viewed, or however they want to design that metric. But it's coming. The change is coming. It's just there's no way to stop it.
Tom Jr. Jackson says, maybe I will see it in the theater. I guess I will have to see. It seems like you're breaking, buddy.
Yeah, moving the needle at least.
Terje says, Robert, you really do have a good point there. Even though I have a great home theater, I tend to phase movies I watch at home more out of my mind than anything I see in theaters. It retains better. And I agree with Rob, and it is something that has stuck with me as well, is I remember I like having my undivided attention being directed at a movie I'm seeing in a theater, even if I am at home in a comfortable space. I can do whatever I want, eat whatever I want, be comfortable and everything like that. But I am never fully invested in a movie like I am when I am in a cinema.
Yeah, that was a salient point. One I hadn't thought of before. It was very well done, Rob.
Black Philip Alvarez says, I believe maybe you should see it in theaters. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to, Phil. To Tom. Daniel Coyle says, I regret not seeing Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters. Me too. I watched it on my laptop, of all places. I didn't even watch it on my TV. But yeah, that is one. Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Daniel Coyle says, can you not see the names on the Facebook comments? We can now. Which is weird.
Yeah.
Degrassi Knowles? Yes. Degrassi Knowles says, soon the only box office will be at home unless the studios buy all the screens and make them auto-stereoscopic. That's interesting.
That is interesting. I'll have to noodle on that for a while.
I'm gonna have to write. I'm gonna have to Google auto-stereoscopic.
Terje says, "Well, it's called home box office, HBO." Well, yeah.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
It is true.
Black Philip Alvarez says, if you end up relying on home for box office in the future, then the subscription costs would go way up, and that's not good for customers. People would cancel their subscription, and rightfully so. I don't know, because the Disney Plus is the one that has the additional premium fee for the films.
So I think that's how
HBO Max.
I think that's how they'll do it. I don't think we're going to see day and date for free like Warner Brothers did this year. I think that was a direct response to pandemic, special circumstance. I think going forward, if we do see day and date, it's going to be more of the Disney model with the premium VOD with the extra fee. Because he's right. If it's not an extra premium VOD, then naturally and necessarily the your subscription would rise out of control.
Degrassi says, if the theatrical experience survives, it will be on bigger than ever tentpole events, much like live concert tours, expensive and limited. Well, yeah, I think is it asses in seats, Steve?
It's asses in seats.
And we basically have to figure out a way to reconcile the close quarters of people being in an auditorium to watch a movie.
Yeah, it's hard to judge right now just because of the state of affairs in the world with pandemic and all this other stuff. You know, I think I would like to see this experiment extend into 2023, and then we'll have a better idea of what this really looks like. You know, you can say all you want right now. You know, the day and date is killing the box office. You don't know. I mean, like we said on the show, the whole week leading up to Black Widow's second weekend, the media was scaring people back into their homes. So maybe people just didn't want to go to the theater. You know, I don't know. I think that's not the only reason, but it's a contributing factor, and there's a lot of contributing factors to these things. I think we need a bigger sample size to make a more informed opinion.
Damsey says, it's hard to fully immerse yourself in an experience if you're trying to capture it on a camera phone. Absolutely. And that goes for concerts, or if you go to your kid's soccer game. Absolutely. You're never going to watch the video again. Just experience the moment. Yeah. Black Philip Alvarez says, exactly, Degrassi Knowles, but for concerts, the money made comes from merchandise, which is also true. But the cinematic presentation, if you did that in theaters, I don't know. I think, Phil, you are correct. I'm not going to argue or try and expound. Slice Knight says, that's why I don't like concerts. Fans are screaming too much to hear anything. Yeah. Well,
everybody's got their phone out, and I don't know. It's silly now.
Well, for a Philharmonic of some sort, I can agree but also rock concerts are supposed to be a bit of a party. Breed some recklessness into your concert.
I don't mind it at a rock concert because everybody had their lighters out back in the 70s and 80s.
Well, and as Rob said, if you have a wall of speakers, if you can hear the guy next to you, those speakers are not doing their job. That's right. Degrassi Knowles says, however it shakes out, there will be a new model. Somebody has to lose, especially with so many choices. This is,
that's true. Yeah.
We are an embarrassment of riches when it comes to our choices and options. Cam says, to the Burnett work, Rob, you could not be more right. I agree. Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. Experiential environment of the theater cinema is going to be gone by the wayside. People have forgotten how to be in the moment and respect others. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Jeffrey Mal says, hail, dudes.
Hail.
And I'm sure that's for us and the chat and everyone who he missed. Black Philip Alvarez says, it depends on if people can handle that kind of change. Yeah, but also creating a niche market isn't a bad thing. You've just made independent private theaters. There's still going to be the availability to project it. There is always going to be, well, not always, but in my lifetime, I think there are always going to be people who want to go to a theater.
Yeah.
Degrassi Knowles says, just like the movie theater, the money made comes from the merchandise, in their case, concessions. That's or fidget correct. Spinners or whatever they're selling at the thing. Degrassi Knowles says Bohemian Rhapsody is terribly edited. Interesting. The only problem with that is that didn't it win Best Editing at the Academy Awards?
I think it did.
So it's either a ba-dum-bum but yes, thank you, Degrassi. Yeah, I guess. I appreciate your opinion. Black Philip Alvarez says, yes, it's concessions, but that's money towards the theater. Yes, through the vendor. Sly Snide says, I have no interest in I have no interest in documenting every waking moment of my life. That's why I have no posts yet on my Instagram account, which was automatically created by Facebook.
Thank you, Facebook.
Yes. Degrassi Knowles. Oh boy, here we go. I'm out. Lates.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Well, thanks for being here, Degrassi. Todd Michael says, well, kids, this has been fun, but shawarma and baba ganoush are calling. Take care. Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.
Black Philip Alvarez says, yeah, I have like 6 pics on my Instagram, and I only use it for DMs. Me too. Terje says to Todd Michael, enjoy. Cam says, having an open mind is a sign of maturity and intelligence. Agreed. Sadly, again, these are things that people don't understand or aren't taught to appreciate. It's a flaw of our insular society.
Yes.
And yeah. But and that's our
and it happens across the political spectrum, unfortunately.
It happens across the entertainment spectrum.
It does.
And the thing is that just, something I don't like is something that you love, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
Unless you're wrong, in which case we should have a beer and talk about it.
Sure.
And yeah, and maybe you'll change my mind, and maybe I'll change yours, but either way, we're gonna learn.
Yep.
Daniel Coyle says it's been memory hold, but Limbaugh, when he started out, was a staunch Republican who could be very critical of Bush 41. Then he was invited to the White House. Well, yes.
It happens.
Influence. Daniel Coyle says, have any of you seen the obscure Canadian indie film or indie horror film, Things? I have not seen Things. But, hey, thank you for the Canadian trivia. The Canadiana.
Going down on Scotty's to-do list.
I got to do it. It's on the list. Sly Inside says, Her is high concept.
I thought so, too.
But it's just a simple romantic comedy. The only difference is that the romantic comedy happens with an AI. Black Philip Alvarez says, boo, Rob's gone, got to bounce. LOL, makes sense. Yep. Daniel Coyle, that's me. I think that's when we discovered the Facebook thing.
Oh, yeah.
Damn C says, maybe his first name is Facebook and his last name is User.
Dun, dun, dun.
Highly unlikely. Black Philip Alvarez says it's probably a privacy issue with Facebook. Probably.
Could be.
Could be. Damn C says it's weird. It worked when I was posting from Facebook last week. Well, and you're posting from YouTube now, so you're good. I don't know, man. I don't know how to work computers.
Yeah.
Black Philip Alvarez says, or could it be an automatic algorithm with YouTube? Who knows?
I don't know. It's weird.
The Richard. Hello. Aloha, The Richard. Great episode, gents. Aloha to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Black Philip Alvarez says, you had the Campia jump. LOL.
I did. I don't know what the hell happened. That's what happens when Rob comes on and we get flooded with comments. Thank you all, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I told you we were lonely earlier in the week, and now we are just happy. This is like a hug.
Yep.
Cam says, The Richard, aloha to you, sir. And aloha to you, Cam, and The Richard. Cam says, at us, thanks, Scotty and Steve. Great stream today. Really nice to see RMB here. Keep up the great work. And thank you, Cam, for being such an advocate for us.
Yeah, thanks. We really appreciate it. And it was great for Rob to, come punching down to come on on our show, but we thank him, profusely. It's an honor to have him here, and it's an honor to have all you guys here. So thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Tim. Tim. Oh wait. Yeah. No. Anyway, you want to read this one?
2 more subs to 200. Let's go. Yeah. Right. So Tim Possible, is doing a 200 sub show tonight. Big
200
party
show, isn't it? Is it 200 shows or is it 200
subs? 200
nice.
Subscribers. So, and that's why we were trying to push it, because Scotty and I were like, man, we're really close. What if we could actually do it like live on this show? Hit that 200 mark. We were at 195 when we started the show today, so we're super close. So if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Help us get to 200,
please.
Thanks, Tim. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Tertiary says, have to run. Great show, guys. Hopefully to see you tomorrow. Flying home. Safe travels, sir.
Safe travels, sir.
Black Philip Alvarez says, so guys, I gotta go get a bit more sleep before work tonight. Great show, and congrats on getting the notorious RMB on the show. We are going places now. Are we?
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. Right. That's good news.
Last one of the day.
DMC says you finally caught up to the comments. Great work, you guys. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate every single one, even the ones that I didn't appreciate. All of them were my favorite.
Yeah. So look, Scotty, this was a great episode. Obviously, it's always nice to talk with Rob. He brings such insight to these conversations. The show ran way longer than I had anticipated or expected, but I had a great time. I love doing these shows with you. We'll keep doing it as long as people keep showing up to watch. Like we said, we are trying to get to that 200 subscription mark by tonight if we can. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're 2 away, Tim said. I haven't checked, but I'll trust him. Other than that, great show. And hopefully you guys will join us here tomorrow for our Friday Free for All. It's going to be another kind of special show. We'll be hopefully having a couple guests on to talk about Masters of the Universe Revelations. We're really excited to kind of dive deep into that. Scotty and I are very casual fans, so it'll be nice to have a couple of more expert guests on to really dive deep into what we see. I think we'll cover the first 2 episodes tomorrow, the next 2 on Monday, and the last 2 on Tuesday. So until then, everybody, for Scotty R37, I am Steve Foley. Have a great day, everyone.
See you guys.